The war is only months old, but London already looks older than it ever has. It is a night in December 1940. The air raid sirens have stopped. The bombers are gone. Fires still burn where the bombs fell. In one narrow street, a man in his 40s, face blackened with soot, hair matted from sweat and smoke, steps out of what remains of his home. His hands are shaking, but not from fear. He carries a teacup, chipped but unbroken. He takes a slow sip, staring at the rubble. Around him, neighbors do the same. Some stand in doorways without doors. Some sit on piles of bricks as if they were garden benches. A woman in her dressing gown offers a tin of biscuits that somehow survived. Nobody says much. The wind moves through the ruins, and somewhere a piano plays a tune that loses its notes in the night air. This is life now. But it wasn't always like this. Back in January, the war was more a shadow than a wound. Britain had declared war on Germany the previous September, but for months, nothing much happened on British soil. They called it the phony war. People still went to work, still queued for the cinema, still gossiped in the corner shop. But the tension was there, in small things. Children practiced putting on their gas masks in school. The masks smelled of rubber and made their voices sound hollow and strange. Shopkeepers began keeping certain shelves empty, not because the food was gone yet, but because rationing was on its way. Every home had blackout curtains now. At night, the streets vanished into complete darkness, as if the city had been swallowed whole. The blackout wasn't just an inconvenience. There were accidents, people walking into lampposts or stumbling into the path of a cyclist who hadn't been seen until the last second. Still, there was laughter. In pubs, men joked about how the Germans must be too scared to cross the channel. In tea rooms, women compared the styles of the gas mask cases, some making them out of floral fabric. War, so far, was an interruption, not a disaster. Spring. The first shifts. By March and April, signs of change began to creep in. Ships were being sunk in the Atlantic, and the loss showed in the shops. Sugar was harder to find. Butter came in smaller and smaller slabs. Families learned to stretch meals, to make one egg do the work of 3. Posters appeared on walls and at railway stations. Careless talk costs lives. They showed sinister figures listening from the shadows. Children would repeat the slogan like a nursery rhyme. The weather turned warmer, but the mood did not. Men in uniform were more visible now, leaving for training or returning on brief leave. Women started carrying gas masks everywhere, even to church. Summer. The sky changes. In May 1940, the war came closer. Germany invaded Belgium and France. Refugees began to arrive in Britain, tired, frightened, carrying what they could. In June, France fell. Now the channel felt very narrow indeed. The evacuation of Dunkirk filled the newspapers. Thousands of soldiers, brought home by a ragtag fleet of naval ships and civilian boats. In the pubs, people spoke with pride about the little ships. But they also spoke in lower voices about how much equipment had been lost, how the enemy was just across the water. By July, the Battle of Britain had begun. The sound of aircraft became as familiar as the toll of church bells. People learned to tell friend from foe by the sound alone. Children would stop mid-play to stare at the sky. At night, the air raid sirens began their mournful cry. Sometimes the bombers passed overhead without dropping their cargo. Sometimes they didn't. Autumn. The Blitz begins. September 7th, 1940. The first day of the Blitz. It began in the afternoon with a deep, rolling hum that grew louder until it became the roar of engines. Bombers flew in formation, dark shapes moving against the late summer sky. That night, the docks burned. Warehouses full of food, timber, and tea went up in flames. The glow lit the Thames like molten metal. Firefighters battled through the night. the water from their hoses turning to steam when it touched the heat. From then on, the raids came almost every night. People slept in underground stations, on platforms where the trains no longer ran. Families brought blankets, pillows, even pots of tea. Children played games in the tunnels, their voices echoing off the tiles. Above ground, wardens patrolled the streets, shouting for lights to be turned off. The little acts of carrying on. By November, Londoners had learned the rhythm of war. In the morning, buses ran again, even if the road had been cratered the night before. Shopkeepers swept glass from their doorways and opened for business with whatever stock they had left. At lunchtime, office workers queued for meat pies that contained very little meat. Ration books were checked, stamps torn out, change counted twice. In the evenings, the blackout descended again. People hurried home with small paper parcels, the smell of fish and chips escaping through the paper. There were moments of beauty even in the ruin. A church standing untouched while every building around it lay in rubble, roses still blooming in a garden behind a shattered fence, the sight of St. Paul's Cathedral through the smoke, a reminder that some things endured. And so we return to that night in December 1940. The sirens are silent now. The bombers have gone. Fires still smoulder where the bombs fell. London stands, bruised, burning, but standing. And perhaps that's what mattered most. Not the bricks and mortar, but the stubborn will to keep moving forward. The man with the chipped teacup watches as a child runs past, her shoes kicking up white dust that was once the wall of a bakery. A woman with her hair tied in a scarf bends to pick up a tin of biscuits from the rubble, shakes off the ash and tucks it under her arm. Somewhere in the distance, a tram rattles by, its driver waving to people as if nothing had happened. No one here is chasing glory. No one is trying to be a hero. They are simply living the only way they know, one day at a time, no matter how hard that day is. Life doesn't stop, even when the world seems to. The milk still needs delivering. The children still need teaching. The streets still need sweeping, even if they're covered in glass. This was England in 1940. Not just a place, but a way of carrying on when carrying on seemed impossible. And our journey through this year isn't over. We've already seen what life was like in America. In the next part, we'll step into another country, another street, another home in 1940, and see how people there faced the same world in their own way. If you missed the first part, you can watch it now. The link's here. Every story is another piece of the puzzle, and the full picture is worth seeing.